data sets of recent times, we've actually come across the idea that sometime in the future, perhaps in the next couple of years, after horrendous crop issues bring worldwide famine, there will be riots in Italy in which the riots will spill over and the Vatican will be looted, initially for food, but then other things will come out. And part of what's supposed to come out is a huge storehouse of ancient knowledge. And so good and bad, a lot of starving people, but it leads to not only some level of relief for them, because indeed the Vatican will have been just a huge storehouse of food at that point, but also it'll bring knowledge out into the rest of the planet.
Yes, the greater food has been hidden way too long there. Okay, there's just to answer Sue completely, she had a P.S. And this is away from the glyphs. What's your thinking on the flu vaccines being mandated, and if so, when?
We see our data shows all kinds of problems with disease showing up in September. We have chaos that is going to descend on us in the social infrastructure, that if there is a mandated call for vaccinations, it gets buried in that chaotic infrastructure kind of stuff. So we have nothing in our data to suggest that if the federal government came out and mandated such, that it would be at all taken seriously by anybody. This is also borne out in history because we've been through this before. There was a swine flu vaccine that was promulgated, and everybody should have taken it, in the 70s there, right? Mm-hmm. And very few people did. I know doctors that refuse to give anything related to the swine proteins to humans because they're so close. And some of the doctors are saying, well, the swine protein complexes are so close to humans that in essence you're vaccinating against human proteins because the body won't be able to tell the difference. And so vast quantities of people did not get swine flu vaccines during that period of time, and that would be the case here. Plus, it's all chock full of fear words. So every time I see this story or anybody repeating the story or augmenting the story about forced vaccinations, it all comes down to a whole series of fear words and what I call fear science with no actual data that can be tracked down behind it. And so I'm tending to just put it down as yet another trial balloon, if you will, attempt to pump everybody up and divert them by the powers that be. Because the powers that be would know that it would take nearly 35 million armed individuals to get the population of the U.S. vaccinated in a year.
Right.
There's 300 million people, many of whom are going to be hard to find, and when you do find them, you're not going to want to talk to them, especially about this subject. So, the government and everybody has a real hard time doing this kind of thing.
That's good to hear.
Oh, excellent. We outnumber
now,
them.
if everyone wanted to be compliant and just go to their doctor and, nod your head and accept the vaccine, why, you'd certainly cooperate with the federal government a lot faster. That is, if the doctors will go along with it. And then there's also the logistics of getting the vaccine there and so on. And, of course, they'll try a major vaccine thing in schools, but I don't think that it's going to go over. None of our data shows it being in any way successful. But, again, there's a huge amount of chaos coming for us in the fall. I mean, it is just beyond our ability to effectively communicate in words what the data is showing without dumping hundreds of thousands of basically unrelated kinds of nasties all onto a report. But the chaos will be such that, like I say, the federal government is going to just lose power and authority simply because of the sheer amount of crud going on in everybody's lives, that you just won't have that much attention time left to pay to do anything that the government or TV is going to try and get you to do.
Yes, I think that the trend is already going that way, and so the powers that be seem to be getting a little, maybe a little apprehensive because
they're
the
quite
news,
desperate, very fearful.
Yeah, because they're attempting to tighten the noose in many ways, like with the new biometrics card, the PASS Act, and all of that. And what you said is very important to emphasize here, that it is promulgated fear, and when you are in fear, what happens when you suddenly see an animal? You freeze.
Yeah, exactly. Paralysis.
Paralysis. Yeah. And paralysis is not what we need right now. The brain doesn't function. You get upset. You can't even remember where you live.
Oh, sure, and you let them prod you which direction they want you to go.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole intent.
It is, absolutely. And that is totally, as is so much of everything else, within our control, so individually.
Yeah, and basically it's, if you're willing, if you want the vaccine, go get it. Who am I to say not? But if you don't, hey, tell them to take a hike. And besides, are they going to go to everybody's door?
Right.
By the time, let me also assure you, if they come to my door first, I'll whittle it down a few of them for you. They'll just be tired of dealing with me. They'll give it up. I once heard this marvelous quote that was written by a Russian general, and he was saying that, well, yes, it was technically feasible. This is in the 60s. He was saying it was technically feasible for the Great Red Army from the Soviet Union to invade the U.S. across the Bering Strait. We've got the ships to get us across the strait and everything, and we could start marching down from here, and we could even land up there in Nome and so on, and make it all the way down. Just in Canada would be no problem. We could just jump right across, and then we'd start heading on down. Now, bear in mind this is in the 60s. But his conclusion was that by the time the Red Army had reached the Oregon border, they'd be so corrupted they'd be useless. Too much fast food, too much life that's unrestricted, etc.
That is
and it's that same sort of thing here. I live way out from the federal government in any way, shape, or form. By the time they get to me, they'll be very tired and just simply asking for pie.
Yeah, and tell them the Fierce Aikido car right down the road.
Right down the road. Well, yeah, you don't want to go there unless you got your strength up. Yeah. So Sue's concerns are legitimate because they are pumping out the fear, and we need not minimize that. They want you to be fearful. So watch out for the fact that they want you to be fearful.
So from just that, yes, they will get masses of people going for that.
Sure.
Just like there's masses of people that are welcoming the Real ID thing and all, PASS Act and all that stuff. So that's why we're here, to say hello.
Yeah, but will it be a critical mass? I doubt it.
Right.
Go on YouTube recently, and you'll see that there's some clips that show Zbigniew Brzezinski making a speech in which he comes out and states to the people he's talking to, or who are CFR Illuminati kind of guys, that we are afraid, or I think he even says desperately afraid, of a global political awakening occurring. And in fact, he's afraid of it because it is occurring.
Yes.
Very cool.
Well, it is definitely going to become even more chaotic, but there's nothing that is immediately, it's like the whole thing is not directed at any one of us, like, boy, we're really going to suck you down. It's not the way the universe works. Remember your power, your brains, your togetherness with everything, and just prepare. And hold on to the boat as it's going down that river thing that Clif was talking about.
Well, there's a good. This is what really annoys me actually a lot about mainstream science and academic science. None of these people are small boat sailors, okay? And in this case, the survival community can take a real lesson from small boat sailors who have to keep themselves alive under terrific conditions out on the water. And there's one of the first sayings that there is one boat one hand for yourself, one hand for the boat.
Yes.
So that you always got yourself well centered, and then the boat will survive. But if you try and devote both hands to the task, over you go.
Yes. That is perfect. Okay. Now
but one of the reasons, too, that I have a tendency to get really irritated at the academic community is, take, for instance, the issue of the Piltdown. The Pilchuck man down here in Oregon, right? The tribes claim him as being one of their ancestors, yet it's quite clear he was a Caucasian, and after they modeled him up, he looked like Picard, and so he's just kind of like disappeared. Now, true, there's all kinds of political ramifications with the tribes and land and so on, and I understand their position. Nonetheless, we have all these people saying that, the Native Americans came to the U.S. across a land bridge, and that was an ice bridge, a Siberian ice bridge, and they walked through these thousands of miles and came down through Alaska and so on. And I'm saying, no, dude, A, you're not married, and B, you don't sail a boat. If my wife wanted to go to Siberia, the reverse, for instance, she wouldn't walk. She'd say, build me a boat and sail me over there. And that's just what happened 10, 12,000, 50, 80,000 years ago, was the women said, you've got to be crazy. I'm not going to walk across that ice. So the man had to come up with something else, and so they sailed down in boats. And if you look at a small boat pattern for distribution of humans, it makes a lot more sense than any of these other land invasion things. So again, it's the assertions and the assumptions that always come back to bite you.
That is an excellent thing to leave people with, is just be aware of what's going on within your thought patterns. Yes. Look carefully. Look at be aware of what you think, and then start throwing out the prickly stuff that doesn't serve.
Yeah, that doesn't fit in your, then you get into denial. You got to watch that. There's a whole lot that none of us really want in our worldview that's going to be coming in the next couple of years, all the way up to the alien wars and other horrific things we talk about in our reports. So you have to be open and able to accept that there's going to be rather dark times, but we need not participate in it. We don't have to augment it or pump it up in our own mind in any event. Just deal with it.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Well, there is a specific, what is that? That cadet something. I can't think of it at the moment in your brain, but it is very specifically science.
Oh, cognitive dissonance. Yes.
Yes. And you cannot have fear and joy at the same time.
It's awful difficult, but at the same time, you can't. I don't know. It's one of those deals where I go back to the martial arts and all the Aikido. If you're grasping the sword at one end, you're simultaneously grasping it at the other. Try and hold only one side of a coin. You must experience both in order to know both, but you're correct. I don't think you can experience both simultaneously. And besides which, these people with their little fear-mongering, they really annoy me. And you see it everywhere. Somebody is desperately trying to keep us all in this fear state.
Totally.
It's like advertising, unfortunately. For the advertisers, they've got to get more extreme because we become, numb to it.
There is a big danger. This is what has happened over time. A little bit of sex, a little bit of violence, and then more and more is needed in order to get the same response.
Correct.
And that is, they've done that, but they don't have to do the rest.
Yeah, the road to perdition, yep.
And we're not buying it.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much, Clif.
Sure.
And soon again.
Soon again, indeed. Soon again.
All right. And thanks for listening.